With New Year's resolutions, many of us will make a vow to eat healthier, and that's a good thing. But what about our beloved pets and their nutrition? Greetings, Naturopathic Dr. Dennis Black here, and I'm on a mission to provide better nutrition for cats and dogs because truthfully, all pet food is dead food, which is why we created Rough Greens and Meow Greens in the first place. We bring their food back to life with live vitamins, minerals, probiotics, enzymes, omega oils, antioxidants, and so much more. All in a tasty formula that your dog and cat will love. You can improve your pet's coat, digestion, energy, and have less vet bills. Let 2025 bring a new year and a new pet. Get a Jumpstart trial bag, normally $20. Get a 100% discount with promo code BESTFRIEND. You just cover the shipping. Go to roughgreens.com, use promo code BESTFRIEND. Bring your pet's food back to life with Rough Greens. So good, your pet will ask for it by name.
I have come here to chew bubble gum and kick ass, and I'm all out of bubble.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome to the Bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show, live and direct on the SHR Media Network, where I am broadcasting currently for the late night radio version. You can go to shrmedia.com, quick like a bunny. That's where you can listen live, and you can also engage in the chat room. So welcome. You got a belly up to the bar. We've kept your seat, and it's great to see you back. Biff is going to be your bartender tonight. He pours with the best of them. And the lava lamp is, in fact, lighted to my left, your right, which indicates that for a first, for the time being, we've eschewed Facebook. Facebook is not shaking hands with us very well. We'll talk about that later. But if you want to watch the show, you can watch it on the SHR Media YouTube channel. Now you can watch it on Periscope because I just sent it out as a Twitter announcement. So you should have gotten that. You can watch it on Periscope, and you can also watch it on Ustream. Now, this is an experiment in progress. But I say this to you, we don't water our drinks just like we don't water our conversation, politics, religion, crime, culture, economics, race, sex, science, law. We talk about it all right here at the saloon. Nothing is sacred, the speech is free, but the booze is not. All we ask is that you flush the toilet, please jiggle the handle, and don't forget to tip your waitress. Tonight, it is August the 7th, the year of our Lord 2018. August 7th already. Where has the rest of the year gone? Bye-bye. That's exactly where the rest of the year has gone. And as I alluded to earlier, we have something new now. We've discovered that in the past two shows last week, actually all shows last week, we could not simulcast on Facebook. And I was getting all kinds of weird error messages on Facebook, and it was turning out that apparently Facebook and XSplit, which provides the video that if you're watching, you're seeing right now in the studio, apparently XSplit and Facebook are having a bit of a tiff these days, since it would appear that Facebook is having a bit of a tiff with damn near everybody and the rest of the world. And again, like I indicate, we'll get back to that. So we're simulcasting on YouTube because YouTube is still being compliant. We're trying something new tonight. This is the very first time that SHR has tried this. We're simulcasting to YouTube and also to Periscope. Now, Periscope, I've been told, is a very firm, solid provider of video. We'll know at the end of the show because I'm going to have to do a post about the show. And I'm going to have to figure out where can I embed this. For me, this is all new. And we're also on Ustream. this is new for me, too. So I figured, like I told the guy that's going to be on Thursday night, Texas Fred, is going to be on as a representative of the U.S. Gun Owners Association. Can't wait to talk to Fred. He's a good friend of mine. And a representative of the United States Gun Owners Association. So I'll wager that you probably have a good idea that we're going to be talking about the Second Amendment and all sorts of stories that have occurred recently about the Second and the First, for that matter. But having said that, it's when compiling to well, let me go back. First hour is Jersey Joe. Now, we haven't spoken to Jersey Joe in a long time. Jersey Joe had his own show right here on the SHR Media Network for 2 hours, Monday through Friday. And Jersey Joe had to take a bit of a break. He is on hiatus. He was on, so if I start at 11 o'clock, he would start at 9 p.m. Eastern, and he was the lead-in to my show. And Jersey Joe, I mean, listen, I have to say this. I know professional broadcasters that don't put in 10 hours of solid content every week. Most broadcasters have a 3-hour show, and roughly an hour of that, or possibly more, is taken up by the top of the hour news, the bottom of the hour news, and breaks for commercials, etc. So Jersey Joe was putting in about as much content and not getting paid for it as a professional broadcaster who broadcasts Monday through Friday. That's tough. I got to tell you, that's tough. Just trying to provide 6 hours of content for SHR, because I'm on Tuesdays and Thursday nights, and then I'm also on tomorrow night with Sackheads Against Tyranny and Sackheads Clint. Coming up with 6 hours of content is tough because we have a top of the hour break. We have a bottom of the hour break. That's only 5 minutes, top and bottom. And we don't have any advertising right now, and we're not monetized, so you don't have to pay to watch this. So I've got to come up with 50 minutes to an hour of good, clean content all the time. Well, it looks like we do have somebody who is calling in, and I told you that we'd be talking again to Jersey Joe. Jersey Joe hasn't been around for a while, but as I indicated, Jersey Joe had his own show on the SHR Media Network right before mine for 2 hours. And Jersey Joe, welcome. And how do you do, sir?
Hey, DC, how you doing, brother?
Great, great. What I was doing is I was telling everybody that what you would do is you broadcasted on the SHR Media Network Monday through Friday for 2 hours every night, yielding 10 hours of content every week. And I was comparing you to professional broadcasters in terms of, hey, that's tough stuff. You know, a lot of people have a really tough time. A lot of people that do podcasts and whatnot will do a show a week for 1 hour.
Yeah.
And most of that hour is taken up with people that they bring onto the show that they interview. So, yeah, I understand that show prep is important. I get that. But their ability to ad-lib and just do things live, a lot of that stuff is greatly scripted.
Over the past 75 years, more than 10,000 chemicals have entered our food supply, but the EU allows just 300 additives. At Thrive Market, we prioritize quality, banning over 1,000 ingredients found in conventional grocery stores. Our Healthy Swap scanner helps you find better versions of your pantry essentials without the junk, dyes, or fillers, and everything is delivered right to your doorstep. So shop at a grocery store that actually cares about your health at thrivemarket.com/get started for 30% off your first order and a free $60 gift.
And you didn't have that many interviews on your show, so you had to come up with some serious content on your shows.
The other thing that is you got to count in there's probably about anywhere to 3 to 4 hours of prep I do before each show.
Oh, yeah.
During the daytime.
Yeah, because
I'm doing that. It got a lot, and I did need a break, and I'm feeling a lot better. And I'll be back real soon. I think I might have an announcement this week or next week.
Okay. All right. I'd like to say hello to everybody that happens to be in chat right now. We've got Joe in chat himself. We've got Mary Brockman. We've got Jan McKillop, Whiskey Dale, and Dave Milner. Welcome to everybody who is in chat. And Dave, as Dave says, show prep is a bugger. Because if you think...
Oh, it can't be.
if you think that Jersey Joe just walks in and sits down in front of a microphone, no, that doesn't happen. And BZ doesn't come in and sit down right in front of a microphone and things just roll off perfectly and all the audio cuts are set up and all the stories are. No, it doesn't happen like that. It really doesn't. You have to treat it. You have to treat it like a job. Because it is kind of a job.
It turns into a job. It really does.
Yeah, and if you if you're not up to snuff, and if you're having a bad night, it shows. If your show prep sucks, it shows. If you're not enthusiastic, it shows. If you're technically screwed up, like I am frequently wont to be with regard to the telephone, it shows. However...
it'll ruin my show when I have a technical issue at the beginning. Anywhere, when I have a technical issue, I mean, it just ruins the whole show from there. I'm in a pissy mood the rest of the night because I try to be a perfectionist, and I know I do, and I know I don't hit that mark anywhere near as much as I'd like. But once you have that one mistake, it's like your whole show. It's like waking up late for work.
Yeah,
the rest of your day is just off.
And the mark of a successful individual who wants to do a podcast or broadcast live is it's like talking about war. No first plan survives implementation. And you always better have a plan B available in case, Jersey Joe doesn't show up or... I go back and I tell this story because I think it's kind of an interesting story. There was a guy who was supposed to be on for the very first time called Alan Thomas. He's a paranormal investigator, a Sasquatch hunter, and a paranormal researcher. And he's been on TV programs. He's been on radio for years and years and years. The guy is interesting and cool as hell. I love Alan Thomas. I met him in 2014, 2015 at a paranormal show. And he lives way down in Fresno, near Fresno. And I invited him on the show. And are you okay? It sounds like you're dropping stuff all over the place.
Yeah, I dropped a ring I was messing with as we're doing this. I'm sorry, I'm doing this. I haven't had shit to do in this room. Excuse me. I haven't had nothing to do in this room since I pretty much went off the air. So kind of like when we did the kitchen remod, a bedroom remod, and a bathroom remod, pretty much all at the same time. That was brilliant of us. We shoved everything into my studio. Well, studio in my garage, which is my workspace for my woodworking. So, actually, today was the first day I've gotten to do woodworking in about, beginning of July.
Okay.
So it was good. Well, sorry about that for putzing around.
Well,
go ahead.
That's all right. What I was going to say is that I had the best laid plans of mice and men. This was going to be a great show. It was going to be Alan Thomas on for potentially up to 2 hours. And so I waited for him to call in, and I waited for him to call in, and Alan Thomas never called in. Now, my spidey sense came on because something about me said, listen, don't say bad words or poo-poo nasties about Alan Thomas because he could have really had some kind of a serious setback. He could have gotten into an accident. He could have completely forgotten about it. Something terrible could have happened to him. His cat could have gotten flushed down the toilet. Any number of very serious events like that. So I had to have a plan B, and I always have a plan B. I've always got enough material right here. And on my computer over here, I've got 36 tabs arranged on my my laptop over here. So I've got 36 potential stories to tell. And so he never showed up. And a good professional just kind of ignores it and motors on. That's all you have to do. You got to have enough material to make sure that you fill at least an hour show. And in my case, I got to fill a 2-hour show, and the show must go on. And I had this.
I remember that night.
I had this weird feeling, and then about 2 days later, I get a text from Alan Thomas, and he says, "Dude, I am really, really sorry that I didn't show up for your show, and I really, really wanted to, and I really wanted to grab my phone and, if nothing else, just call in from my hospital bed." Hospital bed? Yeah. Alan Thomas had a heart attack, and that's why he didn't show up on the program. And I thought to myself, yeah, okay, Alan gets the biggest excuse that I can think of in the history of history. Wow, okay. So again, we've got somebody else. We've got Guest 5150 in the chat room as well. So welcome to Guest 5150. I'm sorry, Jersey Joe, go ahead.
Oh, no, I was going to say, I remember one of the first live shows I did was an interview with Chris Peranto.
Oh, how cool would that be? That would be way cool. As a matter of fact, I have a photograph of you with Chris Peranto.
Yeah, except I don't know if it was the hotel internet or what, and it just, the audio coming from him was real bad, and I was like, oh my God, I'm trying to work on it the whole time we're doing the show, and it just threw the whole show off, and I still had the guts to get back on the air again. I don't know. Maybe I'm not the smartest.
Well, anyway.
Yes, Chris, Kris.
Right, Chris.
Mary was asking.
Yeah, and for those who don't know, Chris Peranto was one of the survivors of Benghazi, and he was one of the survivors who went against Hillary Rodham Clinton and said, by the way, Hillary, you're lying because, as a matter of fact, we were told to stand down in Benghazi, and you're not telling the truth. Along with, I think, there were at least 3 other persons that were with him that went on a talk show circuit. And Mary
it was him, Mark Geist, John Teagan.
Yep.
And it was just those 3 that pretty much made the circuit for a while. There is another one that's come out. I don't know his name, sadly. He stayed in hiding because he was still working for the CIA when the book came out and all that. So he couldn't, come forward.
Okay. Well, for the people that are not familiar with you, can you tell folks a little bit about you, where you came from, why you're called Jersey Joe, the very important job that you did, and where you are now?
All right. As he said, I go by Jersey Joe on the radio. I have a show, River of Common Sense. It was Monday through Friday, 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time right here on SHR Media. Before that, I was an EMT firefighter for 20, 25 years or so, and injuries took its toll. And I've had to give up on that. Now, I needed to step away from the radio show for sanity.
Right.
I was also starting up a woodworking shop and trying to get that up and running, get a stock of stuff, get show prepped and everything. It was just a little overwhelming.
It can be daunting, yes.
Yeah, and with the radio show, even I thought, just sit down and talk, it's fine. It gets it tears at you after a while, especially if, the primaries for the presidential and the run-up to the presidential election was actually very tough on myself. I was taking a lot of flack, and death threats, everything I was getting on my end, and it didn't bother me, but over a while it just kind of was tiresome. Kind of doing a show and almost saying the same thing over and over again, and why it wasn't that I wanted to repeat myself. It's on the news, and it's the same crap over and over again. We still have it now. Russia. It's the same shit that keeps going from the Democrats. They have nothing else. And it kind of, so I had to take a little break and get the woodworking done, get that up and running. They give you an example. I was not even 5 minutes before calling into you. I had started a project today for a new end table I'm doing where cut out the center of the end table, had the space in between. I filled it with two-part epoxy. And then once that dried a little bit, I'm taking there's these glass decorative stones I have, putting that in there, and then I'll fill the rest of the way with epoxy to fill in that gap, and it's like a little river running through the center of your end table. So I was running out there, getting some work done before coming in and giving you a call, because when I get done here, it's back out in the garage, back and forth. So, and I want to appreciate, I really do, and want to say thank you and appreciate you asking me to come on the show. BZ, I had gotten your text message several weeks ago about coming on your show, and I never responded. I got so sidetracked with everything that I just forgot to respond, and I didn't mean to tell you sorry about that. I didn't mean to ignore you or anything, bro.
Well, that's okay. That's all right, because we finally did get you on. So if people want to go to your website, for another thing, I know that you do woodworking, and you also build these. Now, for those who happen to be watching the show on YouTube or on Periscope or on Ustream, what I'm doing is I'm holding up a band right here, and I've got a thin blue-lined paracord band that Jersey Joe happened to make for me. And do you still do that, Jersey Joe?
I will still do them. I just haven't gotten any orders of late.
Well,
actually, side piece. I did an Army logo that I did on wood and everything, and I had taken the paracord. I think it was the camo tan, and did that braid and made a whole border for the outside of the piece. I think if you go on Antrobus.one, that's ANTROBUS.ONE, and look through the post, there is one from the Army that I did, because I've done Marines, Air Force, Navy, every branch I've done. And the joke I have at my shop is I've done all the military tribute stuff. Some gave, all gave some. I can't remember all the pieces I've done, but I have yet to do a firefighter or EMS.
Okay.
Yet.
So if they want to order,
I keep saying I'm going to do it, but
if people want to order a paracord bracelet like that, do they go to Reaver.one to find that, or Antrobus.one?
For that, Reaver.one.
Okay.
Right now I got separate stores still. I never thought about combining them, but it's kind of a separate business venture, so
cool.
I need to keep 2 stores. But yeah, if you go to Reaver.one, you can check out. It hasn't been updated in a while. It'll start getting updated again. Like I said, probably this week or next week I'll be making an announcement when I'll be back.
Okay, cool. In the chat room, I think I announced that we already have guest 5150. By the way, that's the Welfare and Institutions Code in California for crazy. And we have Simone Says in the chat room, and also one viewer. Well, sir, are you ready to delve into politics? Because I've got some results that are just now coming in. For those of you who are not aware, Ohio, Kansas, Michigan, Missouri, and Washington are having their elections today. And as a matter of fact, after having that, I'm going to read, I have some results here, and I'm going to read some of the results that are just starting to eke in right now from these various states. But there's a story that says, Democratic rift, grassroots liberals rally around identity politics in midterm campaigns. Some Democrats think the emphasis could hurt the party's ability to deliver a unifying message. And after having said that, the liberal push to remake the Democrat Party into a more progressive and diverse political organization will be tested this week in Michigan, where a coalition of grassroots groups has unified behind Abdul El Sayed's underdog quest to become the nation's first Muslim governor. Stop. Were you aware, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, that there's a guy who happens to be Muslim running for governor in Michigan? And that should really shock no one who was aware of what's going on in Michigan, because essentially Dearborn, Michigan, is about 80% Muslim. Hamtramck, Michigan, is even more so. So it really should not surprise anyone that a Muslim governor is running. But I have some returns at this point. Now, it's funny. Jersey Joe wasn't the standard saying that, it's going to be a blue wave. It's going to be a blue tsunami come November. in the midterms and all the special elections coming up to November. Isn't that what the Democrats and the leftists and the American media maggots all said?
Yep.
Okay, well,
I've been hearing that one since Trump's election.
Yeah, so let's look at this, because I'm looking at some of the returns already. Well, gosh, golly, it looks like the Ohio House seat stays red, meaning Republican. The polls now are all closed in Kansas, in Michigan, Missouri, and Washington. Kobach has kind of an uphill battle in Kansas. This I found very, very interesting, other than Republicans held Ohio. I'm very glad of that. But remember that little 28-year-old Democratic socialist named Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, and she's the new view for the Democrat Party. I mean, she's it. She's why everyone now is deciding that socialism for the Democrats and on the left, that's where it really is these days. Here's a little update. Socialist star Cortez strikes out. All endorsed candidates, that is to say, all people that she endorsed, lost in Tuesday's primaries. That's so sad. I'm so sorry about that.
Isn't it funny that Obama did not endorse her?
Yes.
Right over her?
Yeah, I read that last week, that he came out with his list of like 60 to 80 endorsements of who the great anointed one said, huzzah, huzzah, I bestow good tidings upon thee. Wow, he didn't bestow good tidings upon the Democrat socialist.
Nope.
That's kind of weird.
He ignored her.
Well, the story about that goes, I call her AOC. So AOC's record on Tuesday night for her chosen primary candidates was as bare as a Venezuelan supermarket shelf. The socialist pulled off a stunning victory last month in New York and is now attempting to parlay that win into helping other leftists win Democrat primaries. Imagine that. But Cortez held a whirlwind tour. She was there herself personally, and she was stumping for that great guy, Abdul al-Sayed, for governor of Michigan. She was stumping for Fayez Saad in Michigan's 11th congressional district. She was stumping for Cori Bush in Missouri's 1st district, and she was stumping for congressional candidate, I think it was Kamala Ng in Hawaii. Oh no, this is sad, Jersey Joe. Would it make you cry tears if I were to tell you something similar to, unfortunately, El Sayed lost his bid for the Democrat nomination for governor? Although it wasn't that entirely far away, which is kind of concerning. 50.1% to the winner, to his 34.6%, and that's according to the New York Times. And that other guy who was coming in for the 11th district in Michigan, he came in 4th in a 5-way race, and he captured 20.1% of the vote. And the other person, Cori Bush, lost her primary to William Lacey Olay, 62% to 30%, and the New York Times also says that. So I find that illuminating and just a bit insightful that the grand savior of the Democrat Party turns out not to be quite such the grand savior. Any thoughts about that, Jersey Joe? We got about 2 minutes before the bottom of the hour break.
Well, I find it funny that a lot of the Trump backed candidates won.
Yeah.
But the socialist candidate didn't win.
Yeah.
I think the American people are speaking very loudly, but the problem is the Democrats are so deaf they'll never hear it.
Well, see, that's the point. Are they listening? And we should know.
The Democrats? No, they're just too dumb, and they like listening. They like listening to their own voice, and they've gotten so used to it that they actually have started to believe their own bullshit.
Yes.
It really, they're believing their own bullshit too much, and they can't get it through their heads that the American people have woke up. And I've been saying it for a while because I have my parents that are all scared. My mom's all scared, And where I have my shop is it's called Big Top. It's a flea market. And I have this great couple 2 doors down from me. And me and my wife are always down there talking to him. 92-year-old World War II vet. And both him and his wife, they call themselves the adorable deplorables.
Oh,
but
I like that.
Asking me,
I like that.
I know. Sunday she was asking me what I thought because she keeps hearing the blue wave, the blue wave, the blue wave. I don't think this blue wave could get my toe wet.
Well, tell you what, we got to take a break. We're at the bottom of the hour break. We're going to come back, and I want to talk. We're talking, by the way, to Jersey Joe Antrovis, and he was on the SHR Media Network. He's going to have an announcement sometime later on this week. I'll leave that announcement up to him. I'm not going to Bigfoot his own announcement. But when we come back, I want to talk about to Jersey Joe about what he thinks may or may not occur in November. And then I want to go sideways just for a second because there are a couple of very interesting sports stories that just came to my attention. And do you think they possibly deal with politics? And the answer would be, yeah, as a matter of fact, they do.
Sports
I know. It's so sad. Folks, you're listening to the Bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show live and direct on the SHR Media Network. Don't go nowhere, please.
You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
The new show on the SHR Media Network, Sackheads Against Tyranny, on shrmedia.com. Go there quick like a bunny, 11 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Pacific, every Wednesday, live and direct on the SHR Media Network. shrmedia.com. Be there.
Human by race, Christian by faith, American by nationality, and conservative by choice. Reverend Ralph J. Chittum Sr. is the right guy on SHR Media from 8:05 to 9 p.m. Monday through Friday. And if on the rare occasion I am ever wrong, I will still always be right. The right guy on SHR Media.
When dirty politicians, shadow governments, and deceptive Islam blind the world with fake stream media smoke, their only fear is one man with a cane. I'm Dave Milner. Join me through shrmedia.com, highplainstalkradio.com, and the Western Free Radio Network at Spreaker, YouTube, and iTunes for a different perspective weekly on the Unpleasant Blind Guy. And catch me on Jeff Mitchell's EDL Radio on blogtalkradio.com. There's
no surrender ever,
because truth is not always pleasant.
Hey, this is Michael Wright.
And I'm Shannon Wright.
Join us for The Right Way with Shannon and Mike, Monday through Thursday from 7 to 9 a.m. right here on SHR Media.
Why are they joining us?
For fun things like sports, politics.
Oh, maybe some news and entertainment?
And all kinds of other things.
Money and recipes and events, all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, so join us Monday through Thursday, 7 to 9 a.m. here on shrmedia.com.
Hey, who's going to take Sean's chair?
I'll run the buttons if you want.
The what?
The slider
the
thingies. Those
what?
Things.
We have those?
Yeah, right over there.
Where?
It's on the board. That damn technology.
Fucking technology.
I know. What are we going to call it?
Call what?
The show.
What?
The show.
What show?
The new show, Wednesdays. Every Wednesday on shrmedia.com. 11 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Pacific. Sackheads.
Against tyranny.
There you go.
Against tyranny.
I like that. Let's do it.
You guys are port.
Hello. I'm Tim Hart. I'm the guy BZ hires, due to his shameless contract with the SHR Media Network, to voice his promos. He'd like me to tell you that the Bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show can be found on SHR Media Network, Spreaker, and YouTube every Tuesday and Thursday night at 11 p.m. Eastern and 8 p.m. Pacific, featuring right thinking from a left brain and doing the job the American media maggots won't. You'll find that the speech is free, but the drinks are not. There, in the saloon, just when safety pin manufacturers are running out of metal for the diapers of the leftists, BZ is sending his personal drones of freedom into the wheelhouses and ossicles of lovers of sovereignty and liberty nationally and globally. Broadcasting behind enemy lines in occupied California, BZ swears that no rights were harmed in the making of this promo.
It's your business diva here, Melanie Collette. I am inviting you to a front row seat as I discuss some of the most intriguing details of wealth and finance with today's movers and shakers in the world of business. Listen in and discover financial truths on a global, domestic, and household scale. Uncover topics that will impact your wallet today and in the future. Money Talk with Melanie airs Monday through Friday, 5 p.m. East, 2 p.m. West, right here on SHR Media and High Plains Pundit Talk Radio. You can't afford to miss it.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, you're listening to the Bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show, live and direct from the sumptuous and palatial SHR Media Network studios. We are count 'em, 2 minutes in 1, 2 miles away to the west of us from the locus of evil on the entire left coast, the capital of the state of California, Sacramento, or as we call it on Wednesday, we call it Shatramento, Fornicalia. And that's where we are. We are talking to Jersey Joe, who had his own show on SHR, and there may or may not be a resumption of that. I'll let Jersey Joe talk about that in a little bit. We also have Beantown Billy in chat, Simone, Mary, Dave, Andy. Welcome, Andy. Whiskey Dale, Joe himself, and, of course, BZ, the fattest guy in radio. Not that I'm doing anything about that, and I'm simply waiting and biding my time for my factory-issued heart attack from my fully factory-equipped heart attack factory. Now, that having been said, Jersey Joe, I want to come back and talk a little bit of sports. I want to get...
Real quick, because I'm challenging you on that fat thing because my weight...
Because what?
My weight has skyrocketed up. I'm catching up. I might have passed, too.
I'm not so sure about that. Not like I'm going to have a weight off or anything. But I'm not really convinced. What I'd like to do is do 2 sports stories and then come back to your thoughts about the midterms and about what kind of results we might anticipate come tomorrow, come Wednesday. Here's a story that I find really frustrating, and yet there's a bit of schadenfreude in it for me. So I'll read you the story, and then I'd like your input with regard to this because it has something to do with the NFL. The headline is this. The NFL apparently has ordered Jerry Jones to quit discussing the national anthem policy. So by the way, for folks who don't know, Jerry Jones is the owner. He literally owns the Dallas Cowboys football team. The Dallas Cowboys owner Jerry Jones made waves last week when he said that the Cowboys were required to stand for the national anthem this season. In other words, he's having his Cowboys do what people in the NBA are doing, and for the most part, people in baseball are doing as well. Now it turns out the NFL is cracking down on that discussion. As reported by the Star-Telegram, the NFL now is telling Jerry Jones, who is an owner of an entire team, the Dallas Cowboys, they're telling Jerry Jones he can't discuss the anthem policy anymore. And Jones, here's the deal. Jones was supposed to go on a whole bunch of Dallas TV stations to talk about training camp and the anthem policy, but he had to cancel because of this new NFL report literally banning him from talking on the matter, according to that Star-Telegram report. So what happened is a bunch of stations started to voice their disappointment with the NFL and how it's taking away from the league as a whole. Now, I forgot something very important. I have this NFL story that I'd like to have your input on, and I also have another story that I guarantee, it's right in front of me right here, I guarantee you did not see this story coming. But hey, one story at a time. Any thoughts about about Jerry Jones and or the NFL, because the season is starting now and it's going to be up and running in September, so just 1 month away, and you're going to have preseason starting. So the time for watching the NFL is nigh. Any thoughts, Jersey Joe, about Jerry Jones and the NFL and what they're trying to do to him?
They have someone that's speaking out, and just like any good liberal, they got to silence opposing voices. They can't win with arguments. Just with anything else, they can't win with rational arguments, so they got to silence. And that's what they're doing to Jerry Jones. Unfortunately, they have the power to do it. As long as they have a liberal-loving idiot like they do, they had a chance to get rid of him. They didn't. I can't think of the commissioner's name.
Goodell. Roger Goodell.
But they don't like what he's saying. They don't speaking what a majority of the country is thinking. They got to squash it. They got to squash it because if people know the truth, they won't be able to push their lies to silence other people. And that's what they're doing in football and in politics and in this country.
Let me throw this out there, and I'd like your response to this, too. I think that this is going to... Okay.
Okay.
Oh, much better. Were you on a speaker phone? Because if you're closer now, closer is always better.
All right. There we go. I'm having an issue with my phone in the plug.
Okay. In any event, what I'm saying is that I think this is going to be the make or break year for the NFL. After 2 seasons of putting up with this crap, myself and a whole host of other people have gotten out of the habit of watching on Sundays, and certainly on Mondays. I'm not really a watcher of Monday Night Football, and Thursday Night Football, as far as I'm concerned, can go straight to hell. Well, I'm doing other stuff on Sundays now, and it appears that they're going to keep this up. And
probably what's going to happen is like last year. The ratings that they're going to get is people watching their home team / whatever team they're fans of. I didn't watch NFL except for Eagles games, a few Eagles games that were broadcast.
Okay.
I'm a bad person, but I think that's what you're going to see, and it's going to get worse with their viewership. That's why I honestly believe the XFL, if things keep going in the NFL the way they are, I think XFL redo will actually have a chance this time.
I think you're right. Vince McMahon had the XFL probably, 10 years ago or so. And I remember the name of one of the players on the back. It said, "He hate me." By the way, the XFL, folks, is where the camera flying over the field itself, that's where that was instituted. The camera flying over into the huddle, etc., over the field, that came from the XFL. Just thought I'd tell you about that.
Players.
Last year, this year for that matter, it's supposed to be the football season where we're gonna move on and we're gonna actually discuss football matters. And this was going to be, we're going back to football just like it was, and we're not going to discuss so many different political things that it pisses everybody off, because the reason people watch football is to get away from this political crap. And the more they politicize football and make football PC, the worse it's going to get. So, I suggest this is going to be a make-or-break season for the NFL.
I agree. And it actually started before Kaepernick, really. It was like a year or two before. I think it was right after the Sandy Hill shooting.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, that's right. Because
the
they started.
Monday night announcer during halftime went on a huge tirade.
That's right.
About Antigua.
That's right. He started bringing politics into the announce booth. That's an interesting point. I'm going to tell you a story, though, that just came out today that I can almost guarantee you haven't heard, and no one else that's listening live or listening in podcast or watching on YouTube or Periscope or Ustream, I bet you have not heard this story, and that's this. By the way, were you aware that the first male cheerleaders are ready for the NFL season? NFL fans?
Yep.
Oh, you were you? NFL
I saw
fans.
That article today.
are going to see history made this season, and it doesn't have a thing to do with what goes on behind the scenes. The Los Angeles Rams and the New Orleans Saints have made male cheerleaders dancing on their squads, and they're going to have that going for the first time. So all you men in the audience, because the NFL audience is mostly men, to whom do you think this is catering? I'll let you have a shot, Jersey Joe. I know you're not going to know, but I suspect you're going to guess.
I would say the gays.
Possibly. But okay, all right, but
NFL's not the first one to do it. NHL tried this 2 seasons ago.
Huh, did it work well?
Oh, no, they got taken off. It was like 2 or 3 games into it. It was so unpopular, they had to yank them male.
Because,
that go out, skate, and clean the ice, and, all that. And they had guys, and, that went over like a fart in church.
Folks, can you think of any other way that the NFL can manage to shoot itself first in the foot and then in the head? It's become just like journalism. I'm going to talk all about journalism in the second hour after Jersey Joe. The journalists have found a wonderful and remarkable way to continue shooting themselves in the head to make sure that they continue to bleed and hemorrhage readers and advertisers and whatnot. And I would submit to the NFL, because this is a politically correct stunt that they're pulling. And most of the people, let's ask most of the guys, are you really interested in watching male cheerleaders? I myself am not, but I know from whence this came. So it's like the NFL is now an official parody of itself, just like leftists now are an official parody of themselves, and the American media maggots now are an official parody of themselves. So, woohoo!
Can I just interject real quick?
Oh, sure, of course.
Did you know the new Batgirl will be a lesbian now?
Well,
there's a transsexual superhero now.
I think that's wonderful. It's only fair.
I know. It just, they're taking long time things, and they got to socially engineer them to try to force acceptance of everything. And it drives me up a wall. Listen, I don't care what your sexual orientation is. I really don't. Go do what you want, but stop jamming it down everybody's throat.
Yeah, I'm done with the NFL. Hey, as far as I'm concerned, the NFL is probably done with me, and that's great. Not buying any more NFL products, because I did at one time. I was a purchaser of NFL products. I'm a Green Bay Packers fan, so I had this wonderful Ray Nitschke number 66 Green Bay Packer jersey that I bought for about $250, because that shit ain't cheap, as you well know. And that's it. I'm done. Like the Packers, but I'm not particularly interested in watching either them or the NFL anymore. I'm done.
Pretty much the only time, like I said, maybe a few Eagles games, because I don't get to see a lot down here. I'm in Tampa. We don't see a lot of Eagles games.
Are you saying you're not a Bucks fan? What the hell is wrong with you, mister?
No.
That you're not a Bucks fan?
Well, I was originally born in Levittown, Pennsylvania, which is about 15, 20 minutes east of Philadelphia.
Oh, that's so wrong.
My dad was raised in Morristown, so he was a solid Philadelphia fan also. So that's, I'm a Phillies, Eagles, and Flyers fan. See, when I'm looking at sports, I'm looking at camps are getting ready to open up in preseason in September for NHL.
Okay, so is that your new go-to sport now, NHL?
Oh, that's been. I've actually always been more NHL than football. Always.
Because you know what, I'm migrating.
I think it's actually better sport.
I'm migrating over to NASCAR. I haven't been a real NASCAR fan because it's like, put your foot on the throttle, turn left, and that's a little bit too simplistic for me. I really.
Did you hear the news out of NASCAR?
No. What's that?
Brian France just stepped down as CEO.
Okay, what does that mean?
well, he's the one that's been kind of changing everything in NASCAR, but he had to step down. He got arrested in New York.
Okay, you just cut out.
And they found drugs, and he got a DUI and all that stuff. So he got busted in New York City for drugs.
Oh, that's sad. Well, because I'm not well versed in NASCAR. Is that a good thing or a bad thing?
I think it's a good thing. The guy was the one that was changing all the rules every year, changing everything about NASCAR. NASCAR is not what it used to be. My family, we kind of phased away from NASCAR. It's changed so much from what I grew up on that it's nuts. The point system and playoffs, and I don't know.
Let me read this final sports story to you, because I think this portends big, big, big trouble. Not just in Little China, but I mean all over this particular sport. The headline goes like this: NBA makes MGM Resorts International its first gambling partner. Now, just in that headline, do you see possibly, Jersey Joe, anything that could go wrong with that? Jesus.
I saw that kind of coming from a distance.
God.
But yeah, I see a major issue coming up with that. Like, the league's not going to get corrupt with power.
No. You won't have people trying to throw games or anything like that. Not like it's already occurred in baseball. So the NBA announced...
I am so cynical. I'm sorry, I'm so cynical.
Well, listen, history is what you are. I don't call myself a cynic. I call myself a realist. Because as George Santayana has said, those who don't remember history are doomed to repeat it. And the story goes, the NBA announced last Tuesday that MGM Resorts International are going to be the league's official gambling partner. The first partnership of its kind with a major sports league in the United States of America. The partnership is the next step in the process of betting become an accepted part of the sports culture in the United States after decades during which the major sports leagues shunned any official association with gambling. This year, the Supreme Court struck down a federal law that effectively banned sports betting in most states, paving the way for major changes to the sports business in this country. So apparently the NBA decided that, hey, dude and dudettes, we're getting in first. We're going to jump both feet from the NBA into the MGM Grand International, and we're getting into sports betting first before anybody else does. Like I said, I don't see any problem with that. Do you, Jersey Joe? I mean, come on.
That almost just screams of... here we go. It's just going to give us more to talk about.
Well, it will. It'll be great, great fodder. We got about 7 more minutes left. And if I could, I'd like to have your thoughts on what you think may occur when we get the results tomorrow morning about the voting that occurred today in, let's see, it was Ohio, Kansas, Michigan, Missouri, and Washington. So I'd like your thoughts on that. But also, what I'd kind of like to wrap up with is your thoughts this coming November, and if you have any inkling one way or the other where the ship may roll, the ship of state, where may it roll?
Hey, well, most of the voting that took place today was primary, so it's kind of hard to go off of that. But it was nice to see that all the people that socialist backed lost. That, to me, is
that's great.
Screams. And most all the Trump backed candidates won.
Yes.
I think that right there just screams a lot. But it's hard to take away what's going to happen with primaries. Primaries are primaries. The numbers are, I just saw something. Alyssa Milano's crying about something.
Oh, that's sad.
As for November, I see a red wave. I think not only are we going to keep supermajority in the House.
Okay.
I think there's a chance we we can get majority in the Senate.
Okay, so you think that we may...
I am seeing too many Democrats. Go ahead. You there, BZ?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. I think there's going to be a red wave. I see too many Democrats walking away from the Democrat Party. They're getting tired of it. Look at Chicago right now.
Oh, Rahm Emanuel is in dire straits in Chicago. Oh, my God.
He is the epitome of the Democrat Party. And that is, you have a large section of people of the Democrat Party that are going, he cares more about immigrants than blacks. And you're going to see that happen more. You have gays that are going, wait a minute, I'm getting tired of being used as fodder to fight political battles. Ooh, it's like a Democrat leave the plantation behind or something like that. And he talked about how he left the Democrat Party and how he was like, well, the Democrats are supposed to be all accepted. But when I went there, I was put in the category and only talked to when they thought they needed a gay white male.
Right.
You know, he goes, I went to the Republican Party, and he said either the people were like, okay, you're gay, great. Or the other ones are going, I don't give a shit what you do. And he was expecting, you know, attacks, and he got, we don't give a shit. Do what you want. And he said he was shocked to see that because of all the crap that the Democrats spew. Well, that's all they have is lies right now.
That's another reason that...
Look at the hysteria. Go ahead.
Look at Tammy Bruce, for example. I tell you what, Jersey Joe.
All right. Yeah, let me get going. I'm having a lot of issues here right now all of a sudden.
Okay, all righty. Hey, thanks for being...
And actually, this is going to be a good test because, you know, I'll be back within a week or two, and I got to get this stuff worked out so my phone works on my system.
I love you. You're a brother, but I got to tell you, you got some serious phone issues, sir, and boy, do you have to correct them because this makes for terrible radio.
Oh, yeah.
I got to be honest.
I'm going to get going, okay?
All righty. See you, sir. Take care.
Thank you.
You betcha. Bye. All right. That was Jersey Joe. And one thing I do have to say, we got about 2 more minutes before the top of the hour break. I'm predicting that the Senate we may pull out maybe a seat or two. It may be 53, maybe 54 in the Senate. The House, the problem with the House is that there are 42 seats up. And a lot of people are saying that because of this hashtag walk away, et cetera, and some of the other issues we were talking about. The thing I think we must caution and emphasize this, we cannot get too filled with ourselves. And by that, I mean ourselves being conservatives, people belonging to the Republican Party. I'm an independent, but I'm going to vote a Republican ticket. I can tell you that right now. I've decided that is what is going to happen. But we cannot be too smug, and we cannot be too cavalier, and we cannot take it on an assumption that, you know what, with all the stuff that's going on around me, I think we're just going to waltz into the House, and we'll keep the Senate, and all will be well. And on my part, I don't think I really have to do a hell of a lot. And I would say that's a really bad attitude to take. Here's what we need to do. And I'm going to end all of my posts with it pretty much from now on. We need to vote red in November. We need to register as many Republicans as we possibly can. We need to emphasize to as many people as we can that you need to look at the hashtag walk away. Just go into Twitter or the internet and write hashtag walk away and look and listen to all the people and their reasons for leaving the Democrat Party. That's what walk away is all about, leaving the Democrat Party. And I'm noticing in social media that these are people that were once Democrats. The bulk of them I'm noticing in social media that are walking away are black males a number of black females. I haven't seen too many people that happen to be Hispanic, Asian, etc. But what this is telling me is that finally there are thinking black Americans who are tired of being used as a monolithic voting bloc by the Democrats. And after all these years, they're finally coming to realize that though they've been patted on the head for any number of years, what is it that the Democrats are really doing for them? Not that they should necessarily be doing anything more above and beyond anybody else, but can anybody think of any reason whatsoever why people in poor black neighborhoods deserve less security than anybody else in any other neighborhood? And the answer is they don't deserve less security. And yet they're getting it because of policies from the LDAM, the leftists, the Democrats, and the American media maggots. And they're fed up. And you can see Chicago is a wonderful, sterling example of this. When I come back, we're going to be talking about some of the ridiculous things that have occurred in the media, that are occurring with regard to journalists, and the rampant hypocrisy of it all, and about basically while journalism is imploding, well, it should come as no shock that immigration is exploding.
You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
The new show on the SHR Media Network, Sackheads Against Tyranny, on shrmedia.com. Go there quick like a bunny, 11 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Pacific, every Wednesday, live and direct on the SHR Media Network, shrmedia.com. Be there.
Human by race, Christian by faith, American by nationality, and conservative by choice. Reverend Ralph J. Chittum Sr. is the right guy on SHR Media from 8:05 to 9 p.m. Monday through Friday. And if on the rare occasion I am ever wrong, I will still always be right. The right guy on SHR Media.
When dirty politicians, shadow governments, and deceptive Islam blind the world with fake stream media smoke, their only fear is one man with a cane. I'm Dave Milner. Join me through SHRmedia.com, HighPlainsTalkRadio.com, and the Western Free Radio Network at Spreaker, YouTube, and iTunes for a different perspective weekly on the unpleasant blind guy. And catch me on Jeff Mitchell's EDL Radio on BlogTalkRadio.com. There's
no surrender ever,
because truth is not always pleasant.
Hey, this is Michael Wright.
And I'm Shannon Wright.
Join us for The Right Way with Shannon and Mike, Monday through Thursday from 7 to 9 a.m. right here on SHR Media.
Why are they joining us?
For fun things like sports, politics.
Oh, maybe some news and entertainment?
And all kinds of other things.
Money and recipes and events, all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, so join us Monday through Thursday, 7 to 9 a.m. here on SHRmedia.com.
Hey, who's going to take Sean's chair?
I'll run the buttons if you want.
The what?
The slider
the
thingies. Those
what?
Things.
We have those?
Yeah, right over there.
Where?
It's on the board. That damn technology.
Fucking technology.
I know. What are we going to call it?
Call what?
The show.
What?
The show.
What show?
The new show, Wednesdays. Every Wednesday on shrmedia.com. 11 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Pacific. Sackheads.
Against tyranny.
There you go.
Against tyranny.
I like that. Let's do it.
You guys are porked.
Hello. I'm Tim Hart. I'm the guy BZ hires, due to his shameless contract with the SHR Media Network, to voice his promos. He'd like me to tell you that the bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show can be found on SHR Media Network, Spreaker, and YouTube every Tuesday and Thursday night at 11 p.m. Eastern and 8 p.m. Pacific, featuring right thinking from a left brain and doing the job the American media maggots won't. You'll find that the speech is free, but the drinks are not. There, in the saloon, just when safety pin manufacturers are running out of metal for the diapers of the leftists, BZ is sending his personal drones of freedom into the wheelhouses and ossicles of lovers of sovereignty and liberty nationally and globally. Broadcasting behind enemy lines in occupied California, BZ swears that no rights were harmed in the making of this promo.
It's your business diva here, Melanie Collette. I am inviting you to a front row seat as I discuss some of the most intriguing details of wealth and finance with today's movers and shakers in the world of business. Listen in and discover financial truths on a global, domestic, and household scale. Uncover topics that will impact your wallet today and in the future. Money Talk with Melanie airs Monday through Friday, 5 p.m. East, 2 p.m. West, right here on SHR Media and High Plains Pundit Talk Radio. You can't afford to miss it.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, this is the Bloviating Zeppelin right here in the SHR Media Network studios on the Bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show. Welcome to everybody. We had Jersey Joe, and I have to apologize to everybody. You never can tell when someone is going to have a good phone or a bad phone, and I'm sure Jersey Joe obviously didn't try to do anything that himself. Sometimes phones just turn out to be bad in and of themselves. But from me to Jersey Joe, sir, if that's the phone that you plan to broadcast on, you need to look at Plan B. Anyway, thanks to Jersey Joe for being on, and he's probably going to have some kind of an announcement coming later on this week. My guess would be it has something to do with the SHR Media Network, but I can't be sure, nor do I want to particularly Bigfoot what I think it is that he may end up saying. And now, because it's the kind of thing that you expect from BZ all the time, I think it's time for some happy stories, don't you?
It's time for happy stories and good times.
And here's a happy story. Concealed carrier takes down gunman at Florida peace rally. A concealed carrier critically wounded a man who opened fire at a crowded peace rally Saturday afternoon in Titusville, Florida, police said. The suspect got into a fistfight with another person at the Peace in the City rally. Anyone find a little irony in that? And back to school event at Isaac Campbell Park, returning later with a gun, police said. The suspect started shooting just after 5 p.m., and an armed bystander returned fire. Remember, this is Florida. Shooting the suspect in the head, police said. That's gotta hurt. The suspect, who police have not identified, was airlifted to an area hospital with life-threatening injuries. Florida today reported no other injuries were reported, which is good. Always good. Very good. Authorities said no charges were expected against the bystander, who was licensed to carry a firearm and was fully cooperative with investigators. We are extremely grateful that nobody else was injured in this incident, Titusville Deputy Chief Todd Hutchinson said in a statement. This suspect opened fire in a crowded public park. This could have been so much worse. And here's what leftists don't get. And I'm going to say it until I'm blue in the face. And everybody on the right is going to say it until they are blue in the face, and that's this. It takes a good guy with a gun to stop a bad guy with a gun. And it's as simple as that. Now, this is a happy story because I'm noticing a little bit of a trend. It's not a big trend. It's not a huge trend. But Kamala Harris the other day was a pretty big illustrator of this trend. And I noticed she happened to say she was making negative references to identity politics, which is what the Democrats have been playing for years now, for 8 years under Obama, that's for certain. But she's not too keen on the phrase identity politics anymore, so she's trying to remove that from the Democrat psyche. And I think there's a very salient reason for that. She is sufficiently politically aware to realize that to continue to wrap everything in the Democrat atmosphere around identity politics. So if you eliminate, apparently she thinks if you eliminate the phrase, well, she's a leftist, so of course this is what she thinks. If you eliminate the phrase identity politics, then I think that tends in her head to make everyone else realize, well, we're not doing identity politics. That's just not happening anymore. And the reason for that is because Kamala Harris says we don't do identity politics. Right. So I think that's a little bit of a trend, and I think you'll see this trend begin to build because the Democrats are having a massive battle internally. Woohoo! Huzzah, huzzah. I've been waiting for this for quite some time because you have a big element of the Democrat Party that is saying, go left, young man, go left, and young woman, and young Z and Zem, and 53 other genders, who I couldn't begin to name, and quite frankly, I don't give one rolling shit about. There are 2 genders, period, end of statement, male, female. And if you're not sure of that, see my previous statement. There are 2 genders, male and female. And that pretty much sums that up. But the reason I wanted to go to this happy story, and the reason that I'm reading it from the New York Times, is just as Kamala Harris seems to be indicating that I'm sensing a little bit of, I can't say much, and I certainly can't say come to Jesus because there aren't very many Democrats that could even tell you who or what Jesus is, but it's almost their own little come to Jesus moment where they're beginning to realize, are we pushing the wrong thing? Well, they're not convinced of it yet. Certain persons may be, and certain people may be, and I'm going to read this article to you under the aegis of happy stories, because specifically it's from the New York Times, and it's from an author that leans left, and you know the New York Times leans left. And I'm reading this because, yeah, there's a lot of digs in here about Donald Trump, but it's the headline that caught me. And I sort of have to ask you, are the Democrats starting to catch on just a little bit? I don't know. You're going to have to answer that question. I know my answer. Here's the article by Andrew Malcolm. It was published today in the New York Times under the op-ed section. Here's how, listen to this. This is why it's a happy story. Here's how Trump could pull off another election surprise. Perhaps you thought America's politicians might take off much of August, given the heat vacations and the fact that so many of us aren't paying much attention anymore. So bad is the odor of bitter partisan turmoil. No. Campaign days are a precious commodity, not unlike vacant rooms in a hotel business. Once the day or night is over, there's no making it up. So in the last week, an energetic 72-year-old President Donald Trump, who isn't on any ballot November 6th, has been out campaigning 3 times with many more to come, mainly in contested races that will decide control of the House. He's had a pretty good record of endorsement success in recent primaries, but Democrats, energized by the same polarizing figure, need pick up only 23 seats to hand the House Speaker's gavel back to 78-year-old Nancy Pelosi. Stop. If-then equation. If that occurs, do you think the Democrats are in fact going to hand a gavel of the speakership back to Nancy Pelosi? And I tell you, I think number one, her marbles are rattling quite bitterly inside. I think those are facts and evidence. So if she thinks she's going to be reinstalled, I think she's got another thing coming. So are they going to hand that gavel back to, we continue with the story, 78-year-old Nancy Pelosi, or a younger challenger come January? Even Barack Obama, who as president disdained involvement in lowly House contests, is back in. He issued a lengthy list of fairly predictable endorsements, carefully dodging some key contests that would plop him in the middle of Democrats' simmering civil war over sane politics or socialism. And that's what Jersey Joe and I said about, a half hour ago, is that the person most glaringly absent from the list of Obama supporters, or who he was supporting, I should say, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez was not on that list. So apparently Obama does not have the testes or the fortitude to get in the middle of a Democrat war, because I think he senses that's a pistol shot that he may not survive really well. He issued a fairly list of predictable endorsements. He dodged some key contests, and he didn't want to get involved with a civil war over politics or socialism. That profound fracture between far left and establishment liberals is much like the angry Tea Party movement that split Republicans starting in 2009 and still flares into factional feuds via House Republicans' Freedom Caucus, or basically Republicans that are conservative and everybody else who happens to be a rhino. Hello, John McCain. Watch for the Democrat split to deepen and widen as the party's 2020 presidential wannabes, likely an even larger field than the 17 contenders Republicans struggled with in 2016, begin their public maneuvering later this fall. That's very interesting. And I think he has nailed it, that there's going to be a host of people on the Democrat side that are going to be running for the presidential nomination. It's going to be a hell of a race, I think. It'll be really interesting to watch, if for no other reason than the Democrat side. Continuing with the story, Democrats talk about their big tent enfolding many species of liberal. They all agree Trump has to go. The internal wounds will come when their primary debates stray into policy areas stretching far beyond standard liberal orthodoxy. Isn't that what a lot of people have been saying for a while now? Particularly since the advent of AOC. For instance, the recent upset House primary winner in the Bronx, Queens, wants to end capitalism. That's AOC herself. The party's deputy chair wants to ban all political donations and says that national borders create injustice. Think about that for a moment. It's like Bernie Sanders saying that he doesn't want to have anything to do with donations. And other people's, the deputy chair wants to ban political donations. Where do you think you're going to get the money, you stupid shit? We need more of that. Okay, this is BZ just weighing in, right? Okay, all I'm doing is opining. More realistically, what about abolishing ICE and leaving the border unguarded? How will that play in the frustrated traditional Democrat districts across the heartland where Trump unexpectedly triumphed? Democrat members and their leadership are dangerously concentrated on the coasts and in the geriatric set. Geriatric set? I'm not convinced of that. Take a gander at me, folks. Trump knows well what's at stake and the odds against him. Ambitious committee chairman in a Democrat House could block his legislative agenda. That would provide a priceless obstructionist foil for Trump's 2020 reelection. But those same chairmen with subpoena powers could also ignite countless investigations, even impeachment. Here's the electoral reality for Trump. The midterm electorate is usually about a third smaller than in presidential elections and usually packed by people with a gripe. Okay, historically, he makes a good point. That has been true. Reality number 2. The president's party has lost seats in 18 of the last 20 midterms with an average loss of 33 House seats. Okay, I said 42. I'd have to go back to look to see which one is correct. It takes a large special event to change that. In 1998, Bill Clinton's Democrats gained 5 House seats when the GOP overstepped with impeachment. In 2002, George Bush's GOP gained 6 seats in the 9/11 aftermath. Now, in 2006, Republicans lost 30 seats in House control. In 2010, Obama's Democrats suffered an historic 63-seat loss after the forced passage of Obamacare and a fizzled job stimulus package, with another 13 seats gone in 2014. That's called a clue, but apparently, not apparently, quite truly, Democrats don't learn from history. They have what I call BZ's historical Alzheimer's. Absent some major news event like, say, a damning special counsel report, which won't occur, by the way, just a little bit insert of BZ there, what can Trump do in the next 13 weeks to at least mitigate GOP losses? First of all, will Trump's so far loyal base show up when his name is absent? Obama's never did. Now, Trump is solid with about 9 of 10 Republicans, but those 2016 voters who handed him the electoral votes from Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin, for example, are not Republicans. Standard Democrats seem unlikely converts. Next week, I'm going to have a good portion, probably the entire first hour, I'm not sure which day yet, Tuesday or Thursday, simply about the hashtag leaving the Democrat Party, basically. MoveOn.org. Get out of there. So, and I'm going to tell you all about that hashtag and what it means. Standard Democrats seem unlikely converts. Yeah, as I indicated, which leaves those crucial swing independents. Like me. I'm kind of a swing independent, but you have a pretty good idea where I'm going to be going. I would expect. Right now, they're unsure about him and his behavior with reason. We'll see. Thanks to the large tax cuts and regulation slashing, among other things, Trump has a golden argument to make. In fact, Gallup recently found American satisfaction with the country's direction at a 12-year high. Now, a lot of people say bad things and good things about polls. I can't say that I believe them, but I look for trends in polling. And I don't believe in the strict numbers, because my job, and I've been polled 3 or 4 times, my job when somebody happens to corner me for a poll is BZ's poll axiom is this: never tell the truth to pollsters. Ever. So with that in mind, would other people be talking to pollsters in a similar fashion? I don't know. You do the math. As Trump promised, the desultory economy that limped along during the Obama reign of error, I could say the Obama reign of terror, is now expanding beautifully at a 4.1% annualized rate at last report. Also, by the way, as an insert from BZ, some polls have Trump up to 50%, a 50% approval rating, which is higher than Obama had at this point in his presidency. That would be a ponder like, how does that happen? Business investments and consumer spending are up. Millions of jobs have blossomed. Unemployment has dropped to 3.9%. Even more sharply for blacks and Hispanics, another Trump promise kept. Damn that Trump. The president talks about these impressive achievements often. We've really produced, he said in Ohio the other day. The economy is booming. A strong economy touches virtually every home. So why don't Americans credit the president? The reason is Trump himself. Through abrupt firings, outrageous statements, or tweets, this president routinely muddies his own messages. You know what? I can't particularly disagree with that. Trump can frequently be his own worst enemy. But I've gotten to the point where I've been dragged kicking and screaming into this category, which is deeds, not words. I am now a results guy, and I will predicate my vote on results. And as far as I'm concerned, you know who's a results guy these days? Donald John Trump, the guy with the dead orange cat on his head. Many self-important media members are only too happy to write about any controversy instead of boring good news that might help the man who calls their life's work fake news. Stop. The only reason it's called fake news is because the American media maggots have created fake news, and they're caught in fake news every day. I'm not certain that they could tell the truth if their lives truly depend upon it. And their lives coming in November may depend upon it, because I'm going to wrap up the hour at 10 o'clock my time, at 1 o'clock Eastern, with a very salient question. Trump asks for it. In effect, Trump asks for it and tells everybody what fake news is. There's still sufficient time. If Trump had the self-discipline to tell Trump to stay on one message, dump the hyperbolic false claims and needless distracting attacks on others, he could attract many independents seeking someone more presidential and become a more powerful president while remaining true to the Trump that Trump and his base love. I can't much disagree with that paragraph. Few think he can, but then few thought he could ever be elected either. A famous American once said, "It's very easy to be presidential." That famous American was Donald Trump. So let's see some of it, the author says. However, despite the various digs at Donald John Trump, what this guy is saying is, you know what? And I'm seeing, like I indicate, this is starting to be a trend. I'm seeing the trend towards the hashtag walk away from the Democrats. And I think since Ohio stayed red and the Michigan Muslim dude lost for governor, I don't want to jinx things, which is why I say, again, vote red in November, register Republicans, get out the vote, and overwhelm the vote. Show up in November. Show up for every election, whether it's an odd special election, whatever it is. Mary Brockman is going away. Mary Brockman, God bless. Thanks for being here. By the way, still in chat, we have Dave and Beantown Billy and Mamba. Good to see you guys here. Now we have, because I haven't done this for quite some time, because I just love the hell out of Kurt Schlichter, and maybe I can get him on because he's trying to hype a new book that he's got coming out. It's a nonfiction book, but I happen to like his fiction books because his fiction books are about, hey, what happens if this country, the United States, turns so left and so right and so divided that we literally cleave the country in 2 or 3 pieces. He's got a great book, 2 great books about this, Indian Country and, doggone it, I can't think of the other book. But they're basically about, hey, the leftists are so stupid that their policies are absolutely taking a dump. Here's a new Kurt Schlichter article. And the reason I like Kurt Schlichter is he doesn't pull any punches. He's a military dude. He did his service. He did his time. He's a journalist. He's been a comedian. He's been all sorts of things. I think he was on the Waters show this past Saturday. And he had a great interview, always gives great interviews. And I think now that he's pushing his book, this might be a good time to hit him up again and see if I can get him to come on into the saloon. This is a new article. I think it just came out yesterday from Kurt Schlichter, and it's absolutely truthful, entitled, "Get It Through Your Head That Progressives Hate You." Some of you need to cease the denial and accept the harsh reality that the left hates you. It's a fact. As much as the liberal gaslight gang and the conservative sissy weakhearts deny it, you can tell that leftists hate you by the way that leftists tell you that they hate you. Thank you. By the way, that deserves one of these, Kurt. So correct. Take Sarah Jeong, please. Hey, the New York Times was happy to get this bitter creep on board because of her history of virulent racism. The Times saw her hate as a plus, not a negative, an asset, not a liability. You can't draw any other conclusion. If you take her tweets, trade out the word white, man, does she ever hate white people, and toss in some other skin hue, you'd have a pink-haired millennial David Duke. And the New York Times saw that and said, awesome, sign her up. You may think you know the deal about her prejudice, but you don't really know the deal, not until you read the full extent of the Ku Klux Korean immigrants' portfolio of bigoted tweetery. It's not merely ugly, stupid, and immoral. It's downright sociopathic. Yet, the flagship of the foundering fleet of the America's liberal media saw the iceberg and went full speed ahead. We could go on about how, if this was a conservative, he, she, or whatever the groveling goblin gender pronoun is, would be history. But we all know there's a double standard. What some of us have been unwilling to accept is why there is a double standard. Well, it's because the people at the New York Times and the liberal elite in general agree with the hateful garbage Jeong and her pals dish out. True, Kurt Schlichter. Absolutely true. Progressives think it's okay to hate somebody solely because of the color of their skin. They aren't against racism. They are actively in favor of racism. Sure, they dress up their shameful prejudices with a kind of convoluted nonsense their associate professors of oppression studies taught them as sophomores, but it all comes down to the fact that they hate white people. Of course, they also hate black, Asian, and Latin people, too, when such patriots dare embrace conservative values. So, in that way, liberals are equal opportunity racists. Wow, good to know. Try this test. Ask a liberal, is it wrong to hate someone because of his race? Because we are not scumbag losers, we will answer yes. Liberals will give you a dissertation, which eventually boils down to no. They hate us. They want us dead. Just ask Sarah, who wants to cancel white people. That's a quote from her, which sure sounds murdery, coming from an ideological heir to Mao, Stalin, and Castro. And apparently, we're even more terrible because we actually listen to what they say and then dare to draw obvious conclusions. To libs, that's racist. We're supposed to ignore what they say to our faces and instead imagine that these are nice people who wish only the best for us as they tell us to die. The left can't hide its contempt anymore. Some of them, like that pink-mopped Harvard bigot, don't even try. And in my upcoming book, Militant Normals, How Regular Americans Are Rebelling Against the Elite to Reclaim Our Democracy, points out, in brutal and hilarious detail, normal people, that is, those of us of all shades of skin hue who refuse to buy into the liberal elite's sickening racist dogma, tend to take elitists telling them they hate them pretty seriously. You want to know why we got Trump? Sarah Zhang and her dopey ilk, they're why we got Trump. And I am thrilled that Zhang got this gig, and I am delighted that her idiot pals think the best hill to die on right before the midterms is Mount It's Cool to Hate White People. Not the Fredo-cons, though. Those saps. This is a golden opportunity to steal the ball and run up the score. But as usual, these useless goofs seem intent on fumbling, George Will. Count on them to fuss and whimper their way into submission when they could be taking the fight to the left. We're supposed to not join the mob and generally give the left a free pass on this latest atrocity, just like we're supposed to give them a free pass on every other atrocity we've endured. Well, hard pass on the free passes. Leftists don't get to pull this garbage and then just walk away with it or get away with it. Cut the nonsense about outrage mobs. Regardless of the principles of true conservatism, it's perfectly okay under actual conservative principles to protest the liberal elite's public embrace of outright race-based hatred. Hell, it's mandatory. And this imbroglio is a perfect weapon for us because it perfectly encapsulates our enemy's hateful view of us in a way every midterm voter between the coasts is going to understand. We need to wield it like a sledgehammer in anticipation of the upcoming election. You soft boys can pivot back to your "we're better than that" pose and go AWOL, okay, again, like you always do. But I say the Sarah Zhang New York Times love affair is a suppository. And I say we start curing the hemorrhoid that is liberalism by giving the left a good dose, good and hard, right up the progressive tract. We need to accept the harsh reality that a substantial number of our fellow citizens hate our guts. All the simpering blabber about civility, all the cliches about unity are all just comforting lies. A bunch of them hate us. They hate us. Hate. And we need to stop pretending the truth right in front of us is not right in front of us. What do? Step one, we fight. This is not going to be a single skirmish. And by the way, I'm long on the break. I don't care. I'm going to finish the story. This is a campaign, a long and difficult one, with the objective of destroying the ideological cancer metastasizing through America's body politic. Step one, we must ruthlessly attack any manifestation of their hate using all the political and cultural tools at our disposal. We need to make liberal racism painful so that they are incentivized to abandon it. We're not here to win moral victories. We're here to win victories. And another reason this is why I enjoy reading Kurt Schlichter, because he tells the truth and doesn't pull any punches. Continuing, the stakes could not be higher. My novels, People's Republic, by the way, that's the first one I was trying to remember. These are his two fiction novels. My novels, People's Republic and Indian Country, show what will happen if we lose. Spoiler, it involves camps, but not singing around the fire and roasting marshmallows kind of camps. Step 2. We must win elections, and yeah, you cruise-shilling never-Trump sissies, that means being all unseemly and gauche by going to the electorate and pointing out liberals' disgusting acts of contempt against them, like the elevation of this Zhang twerp, and telling the American people the truth, that the elite hates them and that they must get militant and retaliate at the ballot box. Let's make liberal elites' racism against the majority of America an election issue. The Democrats are the party of hating white people and non-white people who refuse to toe the liberal line. Stop. That's where you got the hashtag walk away. Let's say so, because it is so. Yeah, I know it'll give the bow tie guys the vapors, but it ain't demagoguery if it's true. Step 3, get your head right and keep your powder dry. We all want America to return to a pluribus unum and a consensus in favor of individual freedom, but we need to grow the hell up and accept that this might not happen without a struggle. Our enemies don't want it to. You've seen the left adopt explicit racism as a core value. You've seen the attacks on our right to speak freely. You've seen the attacks on our right to worship freely. You've seen the attacks on our right to keep and bear arms. Do you imagine that once we give up our right to speak, to worship, and to protect ourselves and our liberty, that the racist Sarah Zhangs of the world, should they take power, will suddenly somehow stop hating us and just be cool? Chet the unicorn might think so, but do you? Understand your enemy. Know that he, she, or Z means you harm. Be ready to defend your life and your freedom by exercising your right to do so. Luckily, it probably won't come to that, since the Prague hipster militia can't find skinny battle rigs or vinyl plates, and their chests would be too concave to lift AR-15s if they actually owned any. I'm sorry, that's some funny shit. You, however, should own several, just in case the left tries to act on the hate that they have demonstrated. Accept the awful truth that leftists hate you and act accordingly. Get woke. All you have to do is listen to the likes of Sarah Zhang and her pals at the New York Times. They'll be happy to tell you just what they really think. That's an article by Kurt Schlichter. And now you have a pretty damn good idea of why I continue to read Kurt Schlichter. You can find him, by the way, and I don't think I've said this before, but I need to. Kurt Schlichter can be found at townhall.com. There's a list of columnists that are there, and he's one of them, but he's the dude that I happen to read every time a new article comes out. And I think he has new articles out twice a week now. I don't remember which days, but I believe, that they're twice a week. One mention in passing, and like I said, I've given up the bottom of the hour break, and we've got 25 minutes left. I meant to make mention of this last Thursday, and I forgot. I meant to make mention of this last Wednesday, and I forgot, on Sackheads Against Tyranny. By the way, a plug, shameless plug. I'm on with Sackheads Clint tomorrow night on the SHR Media Network. Sackheads Against Tyranny. It's Clint and I weighing in sort of a stream of consciousness kind of thing about whatever the hell topics we feel like talking about 5 minutes before we walk into the room. So hence you understand the stream of consciousness aspect about it. Just like you did tonight, go to shrmedia.com. You can listen there, you can chat, and you can also watch, just like you may be watching tonight, on the SHR Media YouTube channel, also on Periscope. We're new on Periscope, and we're also new on Ustream because Facebook is not making nice with much of anybody anymore, and we're going to get to that. Anyway, what I failed to mention is that a bit of an anniversary occurred last week, and it's past, but I'm still going to mention it. And that's this, the 30-year anniversary of Rush Limbaugh. And people generally fall into two camps. They hate Rush Limbaugh or they like Rush Limbaugh. He came to KFBK. I used to work for KFBK in the 70s. And I had access to the Sacramento Bee because at one time the KFBK and the Sacramento Bee were in the same building at 21st and Q, and I had access to the morgue, courtesy, I can name his name because he's passed away, unfortunately, but he was a great guy. Bernie, the security guard, used to let me in after I left KFBK. What a great guy. Bernie and I, good pals like this. And his blue uniform, great guy. Loved the hell out of Bernie. And Rush Limbaugh came there in 1984. Well, I used to go up to now I can't remember. I think it was the third floor at 21st and Q, where the KFBK broadcast area used to be. There was a big, long hallway, and across this hallway was the admin section, and then the actual broadcast aspect of it was through a door, and you got there was the editor's desk, and dang, this dates me. There were the teletype machines clacking away 24/7 in this sound box, and they went through box after box after box of unending teletype paper. Tack, 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 tack. That was fun. Anyway, I met Morton Downey Jr. when he was at KFBK, and I also saw very briefly a very young Rush Limbaugh there. Rush Limbaugh started in 1984 at KFBK, but the 30-year anniversary comes because he was syndicated in 1988. Now, the SHR Media Network says that, in sort of a bit of a jest, we give voice to the voiceless, clues to the clueless. Rush Limbaugh really is honestly responsible for giving a voice to the voiceless. And I would suggest to you this. Rush Limbaugh is essentially responsible for a great deal of the political awakening of conservatives and Republicans in the entire United States of America. If it weren't for Rush Limbaugh, who just happened to resonate perfectly at a perfect time. Timing, as we know, is everything. And I would submit that without Rush Limbaugh having paved many, many roads all across, as he calls it, the fruited plain, and I've stolen that line now and then, damn me, quarter in a hat, Rush Limbaugh is responsible for a political awakening the likes of which you're seeing the results of today. Because up until that time, the Fairness Doctrine was on. The Fairness Doctrine got eliminated. For those of you who don't know what the Fairness Doctrine is or was, there was a time that the FCC said that if you have any kind of an editorial on the air, on a TV station, etc., you had to provide an equal amount of time for opposing views. And then the Fairness Doctrine was eliminated because essentially what they did is let the capitalist system work. And Rush Limbaugh created massive opportunities for conservatives and conservative radio. So that's one of the biggest reasons that in terms of radio and conservatives having a message and being able to get the message out into the ozone, onto the internet. I'm lucky enough to be able to do this today. I'm sitting here, I essentially say, because of Rush Limbaugh and the paths that he took and the gates that he broke down to do that. And he showed exactly that, you know what, you could make a buck on conservatism and that conservatism sold. It had an appeal because he wasn't doing anything that nobody else couldn't do. And that's to say, have an opinion, express it, capture an audience, and if you really do have the audience and you've got a good message and you're a good messenger, because one absent the other doesn't make a great storyteller, so to speak. Let me go an aside here just for a second. And you may hate me for saying this, but I don't quite care. Michael Savage has a great message. Borders, language, and culture. But to me, Michael Savage is a dick. And I can tell he treats his producers like dogs. And I'm sure he goes through an assload of producers because he's a dick. So I don't listen to Michael Savage, who has a great message, but he's a fucktard for a messenger. Now, that having been said, Rush Limbaugh has a great message, and I submit also that he is a great messenger. And he's making a bunch of money doing it. By the way, did you know that he made $88 million last year? And to that I say, and to those people who say, oh, BZ, that is an obscene profit, He deserves every bit that he can negotiate. And his contract is all up to 2022, if I'm not mistaken, where it comes up for negotiation again. But he sells. And he sells products. And he's appealing. And he has a great message. And he's a great messenger. And you know what? The airwaves are open to success because, as I've said before, nothing exceeds like excess and nothing succeeds like success. Folks, do you remember Air America? Al Franken? And a host of other people that are eminently forgettable today. Other than Al Franken, can you name like 3 or 4 of the people that were on Air America? Because, by the way, Air America, a left-wing network, went fucking bankrupt. It tanked. They tried to compete against Rush Limbaugh, and they tried to compete against a host of conservatives. Because you know what? If they had a great message, and they had great messengers, and it was actually appealing, and it garnered an audience, they wouldn't have tanked. they'd still be here today making money. So, that's what happens in a capitalist system, and that's another reason that leftists, Democrats, and the American media maggots want to shut me down. They want to shut Rush Limbaugh down. They want to shut Sean Hannity down, and Mark Levin, and fill in the blank ad nauseum, because I'm not, but they are successful. They have a massive audience. They have an appeal. They are likable. They have a great message. They're good messengers. They're professionals. They're trained, and they make bank doing it. So if the leftists, Democrats, and American media maggots had a great messenger, and they had a great message, and they had an audience of people that actually wanted to listen to them, they'd still be here. Because, hey, businesses want to sell ads. There are some things that appeal to leftists. Ben & Jerry's ice cream. Wouldn't Ben & Jerry's love to sell an assload of ice cream on the Air America network if it were still here? The answer is yes. You bet they would. There are all sorts of leftist causes and cause celeb and all sorts of leftists who would love to be interviewed by leftist guests, but they just don't have the audience. And they're not getting the audience. And so if they don't get the audience fairly in a capitalistic society, they're going to take the audience. And they don't give a shit who they run over, just like the Kurt Schlichter article indicated, which is why the massive push is on right now for the Democrats to move hard left, hard aport. And they want to remove your means of free speech. They want to remove your Second Amendment. They want to remove your Fourth Amendment. Hell, they'd like to rewrite the entire U.S. Constitution and make it a living document. Ruth Bader Ginsburg said to somebody in Europe that the United States has the newest constitution on the planet. And essentially, the oldest constitution on the planet. And it's, as far as she's concerned, and she said this. I wish I had the audio cut available right now, but I don't. I'm sorry. If only I had a producer. But she said, the U.S. Constitution is not a constitution upon which you should make a foundational new constitution anywhere in Europe. That's out of a Supreme Court justice's mouth. She's not a fan of the U.S. Constitution, which tells me she's not a fan of the Bill of Rights because it places people over government. And it said our rights come from God. Our rights, they want to come from government. And Ruth Bader, I'm sure, wants all our rights to come from government because government, as far as leftists, Democrats, and the American media maggots are concerned, government is God, little g. So that's the push that's on right now because they're finding out they're not winning any other way. So if they don't win, they have to cheat. If they don't win just talking, then they have to shout and yell. Then they have to get in everyone's face. And then they have to interrupt you at restaurants. And then, as today occurred, a Black Lives Matter, and I was going to read this story. Maybe I'm bigfooting myself for either tomorrow on Sackheads. We'll probably talk about it tomorrow at Sackheads. And maybe I'll even talk about it on Thursday. But here is a black Sacramento Police Department officer who's making wedding plans for the happiest day of his life. And Black Lives Matter activists somehow find out where he's having his meeting with his wedding party, and they blast into the wedding party plans, and they start shouting that this guy, this SAC PD officer, is responsible for shooting the name of the guy whose name I can't even conjure up right now. That he was one of the guys who shot this black kid, and now it's perfectly A-OK to screw up his life and find out where he works. Now, how did that happen? How did Black Lives Matter find out where this guy's wedding party was? And this is how sad it is. I'll wager it came from someone within SAC PD, from the Sacramento Police Department. Now, I'm going to go into some of the things that are execrable about law enforcement these days. And after having been in law enforcement for 41 years, as I say again and again and again, but I do it to make a point, that I know something about what I'm talking. And I support law enforcement whenever I can. You see this blue flag right behind me, right here? That's the thin blue line. I believe in the thin blue line. I'm an oath keeper. I'm a silverback. I'm a sheepdog, which is why I wear the thin blue line bracelet right here, the paracord bracelet that Jersey Joe made me. I'm proud of having served 41 years in law enforcement. I can honestly say that many times, because of politicized law enforcement, there are some times in departments I'm no longer proud of. Unfortunately, SAC PD is beginning to be one of them. Certainly Berkeley PD, UC Berkeley PD, Portland PD, basically any police department that happens to be in either an urban rat cage or an area managed oppressively by leftists, Democrats, and the American media maggots. Let's get back to Rush Limbaugh. And that's this. He made incredible inroads. And he's the reason that we're here today. He's the reason that we have a voice. Conversely, he's also the reason that there is so much pushback, because conservatives actually found our voice. Damn, it's 8 minutes to. You know what? And I talk about stream of consciousness. I did not foresee myself going here because, again, I've got 30-plus tabs of stories that I wanted to get to tonight with hot audio cuts that you would love, and I ended up doing this. I didn't see myself going here. But I had to mention it because I failed to mention it in other shows. And I feel compelled to mention it now because of the history-making that is Rush Limbaugh and the incredible precedent-setting that is Rush Limbaugh. And if he weren't here, I would like to think that someone else would have filled his space. I'm not so sure. I'm hoping that somebody would have, and it will be a sad day when he retires. It will be a very happy day for leftists and the LDAM. Couldn't care less about them. But I think we owe a great debt of gratitude, no matter whether you like Rush Limbaugh or not, or you don't like him, you think he's a prig, whatever you happen to think about Rush Limbaugh. He made inroads in conservative media that is responsible for the literal explosion of conservative media because it had an audience. I have an audience. It's very teeny-weeny. And I'm appreciative of every person that listens to me, is listening to me right now, is in the chat room, or listens to me in podcast. I'm extremely appreciative of the time that you spend, whether you're listening live or not. And I'm also appreciative of the time that everyone spends listening to Rush Limbaugh or any of the other conservative voices. Or if you go to my blog, bloviatingzeppelin.net, at the top of my blog it says, I am pushback. My job is not to do the job of the American media maggots. The other thing it says up there is doing the job the American media maggots won't, because you get fake news on a daily basis. And yet if I listen to Rush Limbaugh, who has an amazing audience in the millions, or other conservative pundits, they found an audience, they've kept an audience, and that audience, a potential audience, has always been there for leftists. It was there for Air America. And they went tits up. So because they couldn't compete, because competition is a bad word, it's a filthy word, to have to compete, you should, I guess, just be given things. You should be given the accolades, and certainly you should be given the amount of money that Rush Limbaugh makes. Just ask a leftist. Well, Rush, after 30 years, hats off to you, my brother. I'd like to say you're going to have another 30. You're in your 60s now. Kind of like somebody else. No around here. Let's see, what is he? Oh, 67. Oh, okay. Rush. Nice. Rush is... I'm older than Rush. Anyway, hats off to Rush Limbaugh. I just had to say that. Damn, baby, I've only got 5 minutes left, and I'm not going to go into overtime, despite the fact... Because I have way too many stories to go into. I'm going to be going into them tomorrow night at Sackheads Against Tyranny. Here's just one. And I was talking about if leftists can't win legally, lawfully, then they're just going to go ahead and cheat. They're going to take their toys and go home. And I had a discussion, an amazing discussion on Twitter with someone who didn't agree with me, but I listed all the reasons that I thought Facebook and social media was wrong for chopping everybody off at the knee, chopping all the conservatives off at the knee. And the bottom line is going to be, I believe, it's going to be bad for business. Because you cannot continue, like Air America, you cannot continue to have a negative message, negative, and you're going to lose your audience. And you can't afford to alienate 50 or potentially more % of your audience by doing what Facebook is doing, by doing what Twitter is doing, by Instagram, Snapchat, YouTube, Google, Alphabet, etc. They're cutting people off at their knees. I don't know. Maybe this is the time to end early because there are so many other stories that I could go into. And I hope to be able to address them tomorrow night or perhaps even Thursday night. I'm going to showboat myself Thursday night. I should tell you that for the first hour, I'm going to have a representative of the United States Gun Owners Association on the air. His name is Fred Witzel. He is from Texas. I have known Texas Fred for quite some time. I think the first hour next Thursday at 8 p.m. Pacific and 11 p.m. Eastern is going to be a hoot, because Texas Fred is one of those guys who hails from Texas, hence Texas Fred, who can tell a tale, is jovial, positive, and he's just kind of one of the guys that you like to listen to because he's fun as hell and he's entertaining. And as I said before in setting this up, I think he's going to have a good time, and I think I'm going to have a good time, and I think you're going to have a good time on Thursday. And then I'm also, just to let you know, I'm working on a presentation, which will probably take sometime next week, at least a full, maybe 2 hours of the hashtag walk away, what it means. And I'm also going to be letting you listen to all the voices that are coming out now and talking about the hashtag walk away, as in walk away from the Demorats, walk away from the madness, walk away from the insanity, which is why I again say, I'm hopeful that conservatives and the Republicans will keep the House. They will keep the Senate. I'm not going to walk away from the election booth. If you have the chance to register Republicans, continue to do that. Vote red in November. Overwhelm the vote. Do not dare not show up to vote in November, whether it's windy, stormy, rainy, nasty. Show up. Rock the vote. Read the vote. Do it. Don't take anything for granted, especially on voting day. Don't listen to anybody's polls. Get your butts out there and vote.
Monsieur has been locked.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, thanks for listening to the Bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show, live and direct right here on the SHR Media Network. If you want to contact me, you can find me on Twitter at BZEP, BZEP, on my blog at bloviatingzeppelin.net, here Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday nights at shrmedia.com. My intro music is by Possessed Tranquility. You can find them at reverbnation.com. Promotional consideration by the Lockheed Martin Skunk Works and by the Boeing Company. If it ain't Boeing, I ain't going. Also by Pratt & Whitney Engines Thrust. You can trust. And also, my thanks to my personal KC-135 Kettle One refueling team, with whom I will be consorting shortly within the hour at the conclusion of this lustrous show. And thank you. Thanks to Jersey Joe for being here tonight in the first hour. Thanks to you for listening live. Thanks to you for being in the chat room. Thanks to you for listening in podcast. Tomorrow night, Sackheads Against Tyranny. God bless. Take care. Be safe. Good night.
Everybody quiet down now and get some sleep.
Good night, everybody.
Good night, Mama. Good night, Ben.
Good night, everyone.
Good night, Mama. Good night, Daddy.
Good night, children.
Good night, Daddy. Good night, Elizabeth.
Good night, John Boy. Good night, Jim Bob. Good night, Jim Bob.
Good night, Jim Bob.
What's going on? I was asleep. What's everybody doing?
Good night.
Good night, Jim Bob. Go to sleep.
Good night, and good luck.